Oh yes, it's time. Part 3 in my The Fall of Ruby Frankie series. And today it's going to get real messy. Because we're talking about Kevin Frankie, aka Bobo the Moron. Because, even though all the focus has been on Ruby, I really wonder why there wasn't more focus on this POS. So I got my notes. Let's just go through it. Let's just talk about why he should be in prison, and you should not believe a single word this man says. Ever. All right, number 1. Why should Bobo Frankie be in prison? Because he's on camera engaging in the abuse of his children for multiple years, right alongside Ruby. He's on video telling his kids to shut up and work when they start crying because they're tired and they don't want to do it and they hate filming. He's literally on camera. He turned the footage into the documentary himself, telling them to shut up, be grateful, and work. Whenever Ruby starts getting real abusive on camera, he goes, oh, honey, cut. Cut. Oops, you got a little sharp there. Basically covering for her and enabling her, telling her to get back in character, not correcting the abuse, right? Not telling her not to do that. He's saying, ooh, honey, what if that gets out on the camera? When she got called out for her abuse and they had the big wave of people going, wow, you guys are starving your children and making them sleep in the basement on beanbags like dogs. He sat on camera next to Ruby as she doubled down. They both doubled down and said, oh, you think that's abusive? We're going to show you just how abusive we can get. He was right there with her when she was doing things like starving her little girl because the little girl forgot to take the lunch to school. So then the little girl had to starve at school. He was right there with her, supporting it when Ruby said, no Christmas for you two little ones, and threw their presents away that their friends gave them. He was right there on camera, co-signing it, doing all of it. Even though very quickly on in the documentary, he tries to say, I was never around. I don't know what happened. Fucking lie. He was basically a part of everything until the last year or year and a half, when all the abuse allegations had already circled. People were already calling CPS, all of that stuff. So yeah, when he sits in this documentary and acts like he was just the poor professor that was at work all the time, he's a liar. Number 2, he's way too damn defensive of Ruby in this documentary. He's way too defensive. Every single instance that they get him to talk about her bad behavior on camera, he basically blames it on something else. He's like, oh no, it's just because of the money. She was just so stressed. Or, my personal favorite, she will do something horrific and she'll get called out for it. And he'll say, oh, you guys just don't understand. She was so devastated. He's still not divorced from her either, by the way. If you're a parent, how quickly would you divorce someone who had taped your child to a bed and put cayenne pepper in the wounds, in the skin that was sloughing off their rotting wounds on their wrists and ankles? How quickly would you divorce that person? He even blames the YouTube algorithm, guys. When everything blew up on YouTube and people started going, wow, you guys are abusive. He goes, yeah, and then the algorithm saw that people didn't like us and they just sent all those people. He blames the algorithm for her getting canceled. Number 3, he exploited his children for money and he was happy to do so. He brags about, like, after they made $85 in a month, he went and registered them as a business and registered the children as employees. And then he's also very like, when they talk about the fact that he and Ruby referred to their children, the youngest one who was like 4 years old, as employees. And when the children complained about not wanting to film, they said, your employees get to work. Number 4, the way he talks about Chad, don't love it, don't like it. He doesn't talk about any of his other kids that way in the documentary. And specifically when the production team starts asking him about, hey, you guys were kind of exploiting Chad and you had some really creepy people in the comments leaving some really inappropriate comments about your son. What do you think about that? He gets really giddy and he smiles and he leans to the edge of his chair and he says, yeah, I think Ruby just knew that he was a heartthrob. He's just a charmer and he's funny and he's a heartthrob. Here's a fun one. He's a covert narcissist. 100%, I'm convinced. You can cry about me diagnosing in the comments, whatever you want to do. This man's a covert narcissist. Here's why. He lies about his involvement from the jump and stages is like, I was just this poor father working so hard for my family. I was just never around to see it. He's like that shrimp from that movie. He had the same grandiose delusions as Ruby. He also thought God was talking to him. He thought they were so special that God had picked them special. He thought that he was so special as a Mormon man that he could lay his hands on Jody and pull the devil out of her. Like, this man's a narcissist. He literally thinks that he's amazing and great and perfect and wonderful, but he plays humble. Like when he goes, I'm a nerd. I couldn't have done this. I'm a nerd. Like the Nazis weren't nerds. Yeah, nerds can also be super dangerous, you fool. God, I hate this man. He also has a huge savior complex, which you see a lot with communal narcissists, and they can do it with covert narcissists as well. He's like, oh, well, you have to suffer, kids. You have to suffer so we can make you better people for the end times. He also literally admits that the way Jody was able to pull him in and get him to do what she wanted and what she told him to do is that she appealed to his ego. She told him how great she was as a man. He was like, yeah, I am. And then he jumped 2 feet into the cult like a narcissist would. He takes zero accountability throughout any of this. Nothing is ever his fault. He literally doesn't take accountability for anything. Production has to push him to say, do you think maybe that's wrong now? And he goes, yeah. But here's the biggest problem, okay? And I'm really about to get serious. If you don't listen to anything else in this video, you need to listen to this last segment because this is something extremely dangerous. It is mainstream. It is more common than you think, and it is in places like the White House. So you need to pay attention to what I'm about to say next. This man, for the whole of this documentary series, is sitting and dog whistling some incredibly dangerous right-wing Mormon beliefs, okay? You need to listen to me. This is not conspiracy theory. This is nothing like that. This man is clearly a part of what's essentially a large, growing, becoming pretty mainstream Mormon death cult, okay? And it starts here with this book, Visions of Glory, which was basically secretly written by a leader in the Mormon church, a therapist in the Mormon church, a psychologist therapist in the Mormon church. And it's basically all about the end times and how Mormons need to help bring about the end times so that everyone who's not Mormon can be destroyed and they can inherit the planet for their Mormonism. And guess who also followed these beliefs about ghosts and possessions and these bad people who can't be redeemed and have to be removed? Do you remember who else had these same beliefs? That's correct. Lori Vallow and Chad Daybell were big followers of the Visions of Glory belief systems, which was written, again, basically created, prophesied by Tom Harrison, who is also linked to Jody Hildebrandt. Jody Hildebrandt is a big fan and proponent of Visions of Glory and Tom Harrison. And here's the giveaway for me, right? In this documentary, he gets asked about his beliefs, and it gets to the part where he says, when COVID happened, we thought it was the end of the world, and we thought that we needed to accelerate everything because we were about to be the center of everything. We were going to be the ones who saved everybody as the end times happened. He literally smiles, gets giddy, and sits up in his seat. He's still so excited about the idea of the world being wiped out and he being alone as a king in the middle of it all. And if you don't believe me, you can go and head over to Someplace Underneath, who's been doing a huge LDS series. I also highly recommend listening to Last Podcast on the Left, their huge Mormonism series. Oh, that'll blow your mind. And Last Podcast has also just started a Lori Vallow and Chad Daybell series. Go and listen to this because it goes deeper into this Visions of Glory, Tom Harrison, all these beliefs that were the same as Ruby Frankie and Bobo Frankie. So yeah, this man's garbage. He should be in prison, and I would not be surprised if he's a member of some right-wing Proud Boy type organization because he's still in those beliefs. 100% still in those beliefs. Anyway, that's basically all I have to say about this POS for now. Come back for the next part, which will be about Jody Hildebrandt. Bye!